Hey everybody, today's podcast is brought to you by the good people at Grandma Bathory's Cinema Blood. Are you tired of picking sticky corn syrup off the scalp of your damsel in distress? Or are you unsatisfied with ketchup when attempting to create a holocaustic depiction of a werewolf on the loose? Then look no further than Grandma Bathory's Cinema Blood. Grandma prides themselves on only using the best natural ingredients to create the most authentic blood effects in the industry. This is no sticky, smelly mess which actors hate to dip a toe in. No, with Bathory's Cinema Blood, no orifice is off limits. Whether you're seen as a mass murder scene or an intimate knife fight, Grandma Bathory's Cinema Blood is the industry standard of excellence and the only blood effects product containing the necessary ingredient to ensure authenticity. That's right, real blood. Head over to BathoryBlood.com right now and enter the code word Talking Indies at checkout and save yourself 15% off your first purchase.
Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of Talking Indies in My Undies. My name is Jacob and I'll be your host. So friends, we have a great show today. Jamison and Tiffie Stalsworth, aka Dr. Moonrat, are on the program. I remember my friend Austin Webb back in 2008 or so was going to Pellissippi State Community College. And he told me about this guy. There's this guy named Jamison. And he's like a little Tim Burton. You've got to meet this guy. And as fate would have it, I think it was the summer of 2009, there was a 10-hour film festival. Austin was helping me, and he invited Jamison, and they both played actor roles in this short film that we made called True North. Jamison and I really hit it off when we became fast friends, and we decided that we would collaborate again, Jamison, myself, and Austin, for the first ever 7-day shootout, in which we drew mockumentary as our genre. So between the three of us, we collaborated on this idea and we made a film called The Jack French Suicide. And this is a pretty wild idea for a movie as I think back on it now. So the story is about a young man who has a DVD review YouTube channel. And so he'll review DVDs. And one day, to his very small audience of maybe 15 subscribers, he announces that he's going to kill himself in like a month's time or whatever, 2 weeks later or whatever it is. But he's said he's going to kill himself live on his DVD review YouTube channel. And Jamison played this character and I play a ambitious director who wants to get the exclusive to make a documentary about this guy's life. So I meet with Jamison's character, follow him around, and get into all that. Well, when the day finally arrives, when he is planning to kill himself, he sees that his YouTube channel has blown up. There's hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And anyways, we won't give away the whole story, but it's a pretty wild idea as I think back on it now. When I think back on that, I just think about very positive things. That was just really, really cool. Anyways, in 2010, Jamison went off and he started making his own films. And he and I have been going out to these film competitions as often as we possibly can. And we've remained great friends throughout all those years. There's an argument to be made that Jamison has had the most successful run as a filmmaker throughout these years at the film competitions. He's won first place, an audience favorite, been nominated for dozens upon dozens of different awards. I would say he's probably the most decorated of the local filmmakers when it comes to these local film competitions because he has his own very unique voice and style, and he has amazing talent. He is one of, if not my favorite local filmmaker. And he's certainly my parents' favorite local filmmaker. I'll just throw that out there too. So before you listen to this conversation, if you're not familiar with Jamison's work, you can go to YouTube right now and just look up Dr. Moonrat. Watch a couple of his films, and so you can get a context of what this guy's style is all about and how truly gifted and talented he really is. My recommendations, I'd probably start with a film called Bittersweets. It's a really cool movie that was made for the Tennessee 10 a handful of years ago. Really, really great. Jamison is also an animator, so I would highly recommend 7 and 6 Into the Spooky Hole, an amazing 20-minute short film that's animated, that's just outstanding. And I guess for the third one, I'd probably recommend a film made back in 2017 called The Current. And what's personally kind of fun for me about this film is that myself and my other great friend named Daniel Fersner were the ones who helped collaborate with Jamison on the shooting of that film. It was for the very first Tennessee 10 competition, like I said, back in 2017. What's insane about that film is that it's had this huge second life on YouTube. It's amassed almost 4 million views. And this is for, a little East Tennessee film. I think that may be the highest view count of any of the local films made in this region. Besides one, of course, by the great Jeff Delaney. He made a film, it's called Das Spandau Ballet. I don't speak German, but Jeff Delaney made a terrific short film back in 2004 that has 12 million views. So pretty spectacular. But those two are, I think, the 2 largest view count short films made in this region that I'm aware of. But yeah, check out those 3 short films, and then let's get into this conversation, because it's super cool to catch up with my 2 old great friends, Jamison and his wife, Tiffie. And, Tiffie and I have had a great relationship for 10 years plus also. I consider them both terrific friends, and it's an unbelievable pleasure to be able to speak with them on this platform. So anyways, without further ado, let's get down to the business, friends. This is Dr. Moonrat, Jamison and Tiffie Stalsworth on this episode of Talking Indies in My Undies.
Jamison Stalsworth, and I'm the writer, director, filmmaker of Dr. Moonrat Films.
And I'm Tiffie Stalsworth. I'm his wife, and I produce everything for him. I do all of the production design and coordination.
She's the one that holds it all together.
Having that husband-wife dynamic, that's pretty unique, I think, in this local film community. I mean, you mentioned that you do the organizing and you hold it together. What does that look like?
Well, I went to school to be a coordinator. I like party planning and stuff like that, wedding coordination and all that different good stuff. And then he was in school for all the video stuff. He's really kind of bad in coordination.
I'm horribly disorganized in all areas.
So he needed somebody that could kind of take over and just wrap everything up and make plans and schedule everything and get everything all nice and organized and neat and planned out for him. So I just kind of stepped into that role, and we've been doing it ever since. We've been together for how many years?
We've been married for 16 years.
Married
this
for
month.
16. Married for 16, and then we've been together for almost 17. So.
Yeah, and a big part of it is like I get excited about ideas, or like, oh, we could do something like this, or we could do something like that. But I also don't really like having to talk to people, which is a big issue. Like when you got to reach out and like talk to people, but then she's good at talking to people, and I'm so bad at communication, and she's much better at it. And so like she'll get on texts and phones and emails and just start pulling everything together. And like, that's one big hurdle then I don't have to worry about. That's the hardest part about making it happen sometimes.
I'm a bit introverted myself, and literally the hardest part is sending that email or asking someone to help or finding that location. Clench your teeth and you do what you have to do. But the fun part is the filmmaking, and doing the stuff that you like. So I'm just saying that to say you are so unbelievably lucky. And I was talking to Tiff recently, and she was so sweet to me. She says, if you need help finding a location or whatever, just let me know and I'll help you out too. And I just want you to know, Tiffany, that was so unbelievably nice, and that meant a lot to me. So thank you.
Anytime that you need anything, you just always reach out. I'm always available. And I mean, of course, Jamison's my number one priority, and got to make sure I get all of this stuff.
No, she's always like turning to the enemy and be like, let me help you defeat.
I really am. I'm really bad about we'll do competition films, and there'll be some of my other friends that are doing different stuff, and they're like, hey, we need this location, we need this prop, and I'm like, I can help. And then he's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be working on my team. So,
It's like, just don't give away the good stuff. That's all. Like the good locations, save those.
which is totally fair. That kind of speaks to the spirit of the community in a lot of ways. I mean, it is a competition. Sure, everyone wants to do well, etc. But there is kind of a spirit of giving. If someone needs someone to come out and, get them coffee or be a second camera or whatever, I'm more than happy to do that if I have the time. And that's just how it's always been. And, I've had relationships with you all for, 10 plus years. And so some of the earliest things I ever did, Jamison was an actor in it or an editor or, helped shoot it, back in 2009 or whatever that was. We've known each other for a long time, and it's been pretty great.
It was actually like the first competition that I was a part of, and you were the team leader on that. And I think that was 2009, and it was the 10-hour film festival. We've had the 24-hour, we've had the 54, we've had 7-day, we've had 2 weeks. We've had, 90 days. One of the earliest ones was 10 hours. That was you got your idea, you went out and filmed it, you did the editing, brought it in, and that had to be done in under 10 hours. And then that same night, we watched them all. So like we were all at the Bijou Theater watching all these films that were, made in the heat of the summer in 10 hours. And it's like 3:00 in the morning by the time they've all been screened. It was madness.
It makes you wonder if people today would do that. It's too crazy of an idea. Back then, we didn't know that you could have 24, 7-day, whatever. We were just like 10 hour. This is what we do, right? So it's the first one, there was nothing to compare it to. This is normal. Thinking back on it, pure madness.
Yeah, I'm spoiled now. It's like I would never go back. Like I wouldn't even do a 24-hour. I don't think. Like I mean, I think I could. I'm sure that I could, but like I just like, oh god.
I don't know.
No.
I don't know if you could now. You're too old. You're an old man.
Yeah, that's I'm old. It's like well, 8 of those 24 hours I've got to take a nap. So
and that's the thing. If you were like dead set to do a 24-hour movie, you have no choice but to stay up all night. At our age now, or just our life now, it would ruin the next 2 weeks of your life.
That was like the last 54-hour film fest that I competed in, years ago. It was the same way. It was like I have to use all 54 of these hours for production. And so those are also sleepless hours. I forget what the last one I did, but when I was doing the editing, I was starting to hallucinate, that the actors were there in the editing bay with me. And I was, talking to whoever, be like, oh yeah, you did such a good job on this scene, man. Oh, that's right. You're not sitting next to me. And, and it was like, you had to do it though. It was like, if you wanted to get something that, surprise people, it's just like, yeah, no, I can't sleep. We wrapped at 3 a.m. and I gotta get right into the editing bay because I gotta turn it in like 10 hours now or whatever.
And that's why I'm so thankful for the elevator pitch thing. I don't know exactly how much time there is. It's at least 2 months, I think. So you can get lost in procrastination. I have a tendency to be that person. But if you use your time well, in theory, you'll be able to live a normal life and make a film.
Yeah, and that's the one thing too, is I don't think I've used my time well because even before it's like kicked off, you can write it, you can do all the pre-production and stuff. We've been able to do that since the end of the last one. Technically, I think like it's like if you're not in it this year, you can have everything lined up for next year, but maybe that's too much preparation when you've taught yourself. Like I know I can pull off some pretty kick-ass films in 24, 48 and 54 hours. Like I don't need that much preparation. That always comes back to bite me too. It's like, man, if I just had a little more time.
It's these mind games that you play. And then Tiff, you have to be there to encourage, keep him on track. I mean, what do you do to keep this guy moving forward?
He is really, really bad about not realizing how little time that he has. He thinks that he has all the time in the world. And then most of the time, he will write an entire script And then at last second, he will scrap it. I will have everything listed out. I'll have my locations. I'll have my actors. I'll have everything already listed down and built up. And then he's like, nope, not doing that. We're going to do something completely different. And I'm like, well, you're using the same actors because I already have them. So you can't back out on that.
It's like, well, let's not get the cart before the horse. And it's like, no, we have to film something tomorrow. you can't have it. You can't have it every way that you want. So it's
he's really bad about last second changes, last second, not finishing anything until last second. And then however he does it, like we'll have, just a couple of days to film stuff, and he'll work his butt off and he'll get all the editing done. He'll pull it together. And I always tell him, because almost every time, like right at the end, he's like, I can't do it. It's over. I'm not doing it. We're done. It's like, we can't make it in this time. And I always have to push and push and push him. And then he always gets it done. And then afterwards, he's always proud of it. And I'm like, I told you. And so I kind of feel like there's a lot of films that if I wasn't there to push him, they wouldn't have ever gotten done.
Every 7-day that I've done for the, the Knoxville Film Fest, like I forget how many like 7-day films that we've done as Dr. Moonrat, but every single one of them, it's like down in the last hours. And it's just like the dark night of souls of just like, it's just, we're not turning a film in this year. And she's like, well, you got to keep going at it. It's like, I'll keep going at it. I just want you to know this is the year we don't turn in a film. And then it gets like down to the wire, and suddenly like I'm rendering the thing out, and then we get it in with just like minutes left on the clock. It's like, oh, don't let the doubt dictate your actions. Have as much doubt as you want, but like you just keep trudging along, I guess is the moral of that story. I don't know.
So have you learned from past mistakes? So this elevator pitch thing that's coming up in the next couple of weeks, how far are you along on the preparation for this? Are you going to scrap it last minute and start a new one? I don't know. What's your general feeling about it right now?
I had a script for the concept that we're working on, and I did sort of scrap that, but not for an entirely new concept. It's like you get like 6 pages into a script, and then you're kind of just staring at the pages and looking over them, and you just think, I don't think this is going to work. And so that's usually when I just scrap that, and I said, like, maybe this is not the right idea. Maybe I don't have it. But before I start writing something different, what is it about this that's not working out? And what's the thing that's missing? And so I'm always hopeful that I find that. And I think I found it on the second go around on this script. I want the idea to live, not so much the explanation of the idea. Like it's always like you write a bunch of exposition and you're just like, this is not going to work. People are going to be bored before this thing even starts. And, how do I fix that? Now is the time to fix that.
And then on my end of it, it's always trying my best to make sure that whenever he does scrap it, because I know he's going to scrap everything at least once, that everything for the next production, for the next go around, we can use our same actors. It's very, very important to not line somebody up for an acting role and then, just a few days before be like, sorry, we can't use you. And that's happened before. Unfortunately, it has happened before, and there's absolutely nothing you can do, but that's the worst feeling in the world, especially if somebody turns down other spots for different teams because they're planning on working with you. And then at last second, you're like, I can't use you. So there's been a couple of times whenever he's scrapped stuff at last second that I'm like, no, you have to use these people. Like, you have to. It's like, I don't care if you got them in there as security guards or if you got them in there as waitresses or whatever. They're going to be in this film.
They're there for the day.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's really, really difficult whenever you line somebody up. They get so excited and they're helping you usually for free. Like, usually most of our actors, are always people that are just volunteering and to help us. And so here they plan their stuff out. They tell other teams, I can't work with you this day because I'm working with Jamison. And then, you got 2 days before and you're like, sorry, turns out we don't need you. I try my best to make sure that that doesn't happen, because I just feel like it's disrespectful to anybody that's in the craft.
Oh yeah, like especially for any of like the competition stuff, it's like in the perfect world of the sort of narcissistic filmmaker where the world revolves around the writer director. It's the auteur-centered universe. Everyone is just like, oh, they're just lucky to be a part of my work. But, that's not the case. It's like, if an actor, especially like a professional actor, they're just going to volunteer their time. That's essentially like whatever amount of money you would be paying that actor under normal circumstances, that's what they're giving to your production. Say this person's like, it's, like I make like $850 on a regular, gig or whatever, but I'll come sweat it out for 10 hours on your film. It's just like, it's like they're giving you their day's wages. You can never take it for granted. And it does make it hard when you're about to scrap an idea, but then you've got your cast set and it's like, okay, whatever the idea, if I'm not doing this, I got to come up with something that's going to be better for all these people involved. And most of the time it's always like worked out that way, but it doesn't always look good.
I have quite a few actor friends who will say that I will never work with this team again. Just talking to me about other teams that have not, respected their acting. And they just think, oh, well, I can always just grab somebody else to throw it into the part or whatever. But I really feel like the actors are a whole lot bigger part. They're the heart of everything. There's just been a lot of times that I've had a lot of actor friends that will come to me, and even crew members, they'll come to me and they'll say, I'm not going to work with this director again because they didn't treat me like I felt like I needed to be treated. We always try our best to make sure that everybody not only, feels respected, but also creatively respected, where if they could come to us and be like, hey, here's an idea for something, and, or I could do the part like this, or I could shoot like this, or I could light it like that, and just give us some feedback. And we're always very open on that end of it. Like, we're not horribly controlling over any of that aspect, because we want everybody to have a little bit of, it's everybody's film. It's not just our film.
That's right. And that's so important to remember. And I'm so glad that this is something that's being brought up, because people need to look to you all as inspiration on how they need to be running sets. Because especially if you're not paying people, like you need to be kind to these people. You need to give them an opportunity to keep their fingerprints on the movie also. It's not just yours. It's not just mine. It's all of ours. And if someone comes out and they're just basically your puppet, that's no fun for them. I mean, maybe, but I think they feel much more invested in it. So I'm right there with you.
I think always keeping yourself open to collaboration. Whatever, film we're doing, it's usually like most of the time, whatever's in the script, that's what we're going to shoot. That's the locations we got, all this and that. But there's always somebody who will see that and have a good idea, or just like it feels better this way or that. And you really get a sense of collaboration when you've got a good team, and you have to be open to that. So it's the one thing of like, if you're the director, you ultimately get to make the final decision, but it should always be like, well, no, we got to do it this way because, and there's a reason for that. That isn't just, look, I'm the director, that's how I wrote it, and blah, 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 blah. And not just for the sake of politeness, or not just so like, oh yeah, let's just listen to people out. It's truly for the sake that you are going to open yourself up to some fantastic ideas and like some stuff that you didn't think of, because you're allowing people to throw things towards you and be like, I could do it like this, or what about that, or what if I get it from this angle, or, and then all of a sudden you get something that's far more interesting. And there was one thing, this is going back to a 7-day, a couple years ago, I did a werewolf movie. That was the Occurrence on Old Howler Road. And this was another thing where I think I wrote like 6 to 8 scripts for different concepts before landing on that one, because we got stuck with like road trip or whatever. And I was like, I just didn't know what to do about that. But we had our cast, so I had to come up with something that fit. So I wrote a comedy, I wrote like some mockumentary, I wrote some sort of existential Charlie Kaufman type of thing, and like nothing was solidifying. Like the cake just would not bake until I finally wrote this thing with like a werewolf. The script that was finished was a little bit different than the film because it was Mike Stanley and Susanna Devereaux on their way to an Airbnb. They pick up a disturbed looking hitchhiker. They're trying to help her out. Turns out she's a werewolf. She kills them. End of story. And I was like, yeah, I mean, we can film that and that'll be good. And then I think it was like the day before, telling my mom this idea. I give her like the rundown of the script. And then she goes, I think it would be interesting. And then I'm thinking like, oh, here we go. And she goes, I think it would be interesting if the people going to the Airbnb, if they were the bad guys, if they were like going to kill her. So she's just this innocent person. And then when she turns into a werewolf, that's a twist. And I thought, oh my God, that's such a simple fix. And I went home and I rewrote the whole thing. And it was like the same cat. And it was one of those things that I could either dig my heels in and say, like, I've written it this way. I've already sent the script off. This is how I see it in my mind. This is what we're going to do. But then I would have to shut myself off from an idea that I knew was just a simple change, but like infinitely better. You will hear an idea that's so good that it is a sin for you to not use it. It's a cinema sin if I don't use that idea.
I'm pretty sure we won that year, didn't we?
Oh yes, and we won thanks to my mama.
Yo, mama coming through in the clutch. I love it. You know, we started doing this when we were youngsters. I think we both had maybe a kid when we first started, but now, you know, we're a little bit older. I have 2 kids. You have 4 kids. How has that changed your filmmaking, if at all?
Destry's taken over.
Yeah, you know, now it's to the point, you know, Destry's 15, so like a lot of times he's there on set with us for a lot of things now. So it hasn't really changed anything. I think because, yeah, like, you know, he was a baby when we first started doing like competitions. Well, look, a competition is like a weekend. We still plan our shoot days as like, look, let's see if we can get it planned out. We can shoot this thing in a day. That doesn't change anything. It's like, yeah, we just need a babysitter we got a 12-hour day. It's going to be a long day, but like kids are over at their grandparents having a good time and we're running around exhausting ourselves. And then we got the film, you know, in the can, so to speak.
But Destry, he's 15 now. He's our oldest. And he's quite the little filmmaker himself. He's a big-time writer and director, and he's made some films, and he wrote and did all the filming stuff for the horror festival.
Oh, yeah, the Knoxville Horror Fest. Yeah.
Yeah, and he won some awards in that, and he's very creative. He's like a copy and paste of Jamison. Like, he's a total little Jamison, completely.
Well, that's so fun. It's so fun to be able to bring your kids into this and see them grow. And I remember he was an actor in at least a couple of the films that you've made, which is so cool.
In Bittersweets, yeah, he acted in Bittersweets. He's a good actor. He's a little Jamison. He's just a complete little Jamison.
Let's finish it out by talking about this upcoming elevator pitch. We've touched on it. You've got some ideas. Got some rewrites to do. I'm currently working on a script myself. Ideally, I will have at least a vision on what I'm planning to do, you know, in the first week or 2 after the kickoff, which would give me, you know, a month and a half, 2 months to kind of figure out how to make this thing happen. Are you going to try to get out there as soon as possible, or are you going to wait until about a month in? Since you have so much time, there's a lot of choices to be made there. So what's your thoughts on where you are currently and when you think you're going to actually be able to hit production?
I do like waiting until like at least as late as reasonably possible. I think as far as like actually shooting the thing. Yeah, you know, and Tiff's shaking her head too. Like she's
No, he shouldn't. He should not wait that long.
I have my reasons.
He's bad to do that.
I mean, like, but the first thing is like if you're gonna wait until you're shooting, like you at least have to be doing something for like pre-production. That's where I want to be with this is like, you know, pick a day. It's like, look, we really should shoot it here. This will give us this much time and post-production, and I know like what I can get done in that amount of time for post-production. If I, you know, push the shoot day back, then I've got a lot more time to try to answer as many questions as possible, like before we shoot. Ideally, still trying to design a production that can be tackled in a day, possibly 2 days, if we want to get, very specific with some things, but like trying to keep that production day as smooth and organized as possible. Then you got to have a lot of prep time, on the front end of things.
Yeah, and I agree. And in the past, that's the way that I've always done it too, is to try to squeeze it all into one day because, you want to be really mindful of people's time. It sucks asking people to sacrifice 4 Saturdays in a row, but they can usually sacrifice one Saturday or a Sunday or whatever the case may be. But it makes me wonder if it wouldn't be smart to shoot early and then put it together. And if there's anything that you're unhappy with, you actually have time to reshoot it. Just go do it again. We screwed this up. We're going to try this one more time. I can't tell you how many times that I look at a film and there's always at least one thing in there I'm just like, oh, what was I doing that day? Is at like hour 11 and your brain's not working or, whatever the case may be. So it was just a thought for me, would it be interesting to try to shoot it early and if need be, get a reshoot in if needed? Just thought.
You bring up an excellent point. So it's worth like maybe scheduling a reshoot day or just a bonus day too, and try to not use it if you don't need it. But even if it's just like a week later, like, look, it's this Saturday and then we got another Saturday after that, and that's going to be it. Unless I decide like, hey, look, I think we got everything on Saturday 1. But you've got the whole week to figure that out, just looking through your shots that you filmed and like, is this everything? Is this going to work? Is anything not going to work out of this? And that might save you like the misery and the panic of when you're putting shots together and just like, oh no, it's not fitting together.
And as far as his time management goes, he's so bad at that. He's so bad at saying, oh, this will just take me 4 hours. And then, after 10 hours, he's like, okay, well, I guess maybe we have to pick back up on it tomorrow. And it's like, Jamison, you should have planned it from the beginning. If this is going to take you 8 hours, then you need to plan it for 8 hours. But he's really, really bad about not realizing how long something's going to take. So that's a big part of my stuff is where I have to be like, well, we can do these scenes right here, tomorrow. And he'll be like, oh, well, we could just knock out this whole page. And it's like, no, we're going to do these scenes tomorrow. You're not going to keep pushing because we're not going to keep these actors here for 20 hours. Like, you just cannot do it. You just got to trust me on this. And he's pretty good about trusting me on stuff, but there's a lot of stuff where I have to, just kind of pound it in his head, just be like, look, you can't do this. And so
or you shouldn't.
Yeah.
It's the other thing. It's just like when she says something like that, he's like, you really shouldn't try to cram all this. Just give it an extra day. And it's like, well, I don't want to ask anybody. It's like, everyone will be happy. I'll ask them. And it's like, guess what? Everyone's on board because everyone's having a good time because you have a short film day instead of 24 hours. Everyone's relaxed and it's easy going. You can, and so that's when you start to really appreciate when you give yourself time. Because then if a scene is not coming together or, actors are having trouble with this or that, because they're, you've burnt them out or whatever, you're not just sweating and being like, God, this isn't going to work. So yeah, if you have the time to make extra time, make all the time you possibly can. Just be using it for something,
Strong agree. Friends, this was fun. I'm glad we got to do this. Is there anything that you would like to tell the people before we let you go for today?
I wish I had like one piece of wisdom to make myself sound smart.
Here's his wisdom. Find a producer and marry them so that way they can make your life a whole lot easier.
That would be it. And maybe another thing, don't move the camera unless you absolutely have to.
Yeah.
Yes, Jamison, Tiffie, Stalsworth. I'm really glad we had an opportunity to talk with these two today. That was so much fun. So if you're curious about their short films, hop on youtube.com and look up Dr. Moonrat. There's a bunch of options on there and they're all so good. So this was a good one, friends. I hope you enjoyed it. Take care of yourselves, and I look forward to speaking with you again soon.